Greetings, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of Krusty Canuck. I'm your host, Krusty. And today's episode, we're going to discuss the whole F-18 debacle and the okay, it's to be white conspiracy. So let's start with the F-18 debacle, shall we? Our beloved defense minister, Mr. Harjit Sajid, or whatever he's called, well, let's just say he's a debacle. Let's just say he's not doing what he's supposed to do as defense minister, and well, he doesn't really care about what he says or does. Proof of that would be back in 2017, how he said he was the architect of Op Medusa. Now, regardless of the critical praise that he received from senior officers on the ground at that time, I remember some individuals that were part of that battle from the time I was serving, and let me tell you, they weren't too pleased the way things worked out. Anyhow, since then, Mr. Singh, or correction, Mr. Harjit, has done everything he could to step back and apologize for what he said. Needless to say, he still lied to the Canadian people in regards to what he did in Op Medusa. He was a reserve major. He might have had some good ideas. He might have been praised by some senior officers. Nonetheless, he didn't ramrod too much. So let's just clear that up. Now with the F-18 debacle. Interesting. According to the CBC, there'll be links at the bottom of the page just to back up my points here, that the Aussie jet is going to try to fill in the gaps. Interesting. It does not, it doesn't compute how we have these old fighter jets and they're trying to put new ones in by 2020. And by the sound of this article, they're only going to be maybe 2 or 3 of them ready at most by July of next year. Interesting. How many billions of dollars are being wasted on replacing our old jets with old jets? I ask you, really? Does that seem logical? Now, considering the accolades that our defense minister has received over the past few years because of his contribution to the war in Afghanistan and his time served in the Balkans, he's got a pretty good, impressive military record. Hats off for that. Good job on your part, sir. Terrible job, however, in being the defense minister of this country. How many millions and billions of dollars have been squandered in the name of the UN and helping the less fortunate in the world out, and yet nothing's been done for the Canadian military? Interesting how this is working, right? And of course, one CBC article I did read this morning that was on the Facebook live feed, however, was always blaming the Harper government. Now, I admit the Harper government wasn't that great. Okay? Trust me, not every government's perfect. You're not going to find perfection in every democratic state. That's just ludicrous. Perfection is just a dream. It's just a goal. However, when you appoint officials to do a job, to get the job done, you expect them to do it. Right? They've been in power now since 2015. Sunny Ways and all that great stuff that JT promoted. And what's being done? Why is it so hard for our collective minds, people that have actually served in our armed forces, who've given time and effort to the name of the Queen and the country, and still find it hard to actually procure proper equipment for our military? Now, they say in their articles that they have trouble getting techs and getting pilots. Well, I can tell you this. I'm not a pilot. I'm not a tech. I never was. But some of the pilots I have talked to who have served in the Canadian Air Force, they've got lots of stories to tell you when it comes to the procurement process and the orders they're given. When it comes to missions, when it comes to patrols, equipment they can use, equipment they can't use. So if you do get a chance to talk to an ex-Air Force pilot, I'm sure they'll have some good stories for you when it comes to the procurement and procurability of our equipment in today's military. But that's another story, which I am working on in the background, by the way. So stay tuned for an episode on that. So back to Mr. Harjit and his BS when it comes to procurement in this country. Now, to my understanding, if I ever lied to my troops or misled my troops in any way, I would have been punished. Now, from serving, I was punished for mistakes I did make. Like, I wasn't given any kind of, penal, punishment. I wasn't thrown in cells, thankfully. But to make a long story short, if I made a mistake, I owned it, period. It had nothing to do with my rank or my privilege. It had more to do with the fact that, okay, this is your position, this is what you have to do, and you do the best you can with what you got, and you do it right. If you don't do it right, there's powers that be that are going to sit there and sort you out. And there have been times I have been sorted out. That's life. You make a mistake, you own it, right? Especially when you're dealing with soldiers, when you're dealing with serving personnel, people that are under your wing, that look after you, and you look after them because you're appointed their leader. And you do what you can, and you bloody well own your shit if something happens. And you look after the welfare of your guys the best of your ability. Sometimes you've got to learn the job a few more times. You got to learn it twice, 3 times, 4 times to get it right. It happens. Human beings make that mistake all the time. But when you're appointed into a position because you won an election in a riding to represent Canadian interests, to represent the interest of your riding, and all of a sudden you are given a position on a national scale to look after the defense of this country, do you not think that handing excuses is a stupid thing? Do you not think that maybe you should actually get your head out of your butt and start doing your job? For crying out loud, man, you were an officer. Okay? You were a lieutenant colonel, a very, very honorable position in today's military. Okay? I've worked for a lot of lieutenant colonels in my career, and I tell you, they never handed me excuses like you're handing the Canadian public. Right? Why do you keep blaming the Harper government? You guys been in charge now for 3.5 years. What's wrong? What are you doing? Correction, I'm sorry, only 3 years. Still, 3 years you guys been in charge, and yet money's been taken out of the defense budget. We still fail to meet our NATO standard, and you still can't decide whether or not to buy proper F-18s by 2020, or let's just give the Canadian public 2 of them right now to keep them happy. Well, this civilian, what would make me happy is that if you guys would take responsibility, procure our defense properly, meet the 2% GDP, and stand by our NATO allies. That's it. Really. I don't know what to say. Maybe, wait till the next election for now. But hey, I digress. I'm really getting sick and tired of these elected officials saying they know what's best for us when they don't. They don't have a clue. Really. They just keep sitting there. Oh, hello. Hello. You have to realize there, Mr. Krusty, that I was the architect behind many major battles in Canadian history. Yes, Mr. Potato, Trudeau, has numerous faith in me, and don't call him a turd. That's racist, sir. Stop that. How is that racist? The man's a turd. I can't help that. You can. You could actually stand on guard for thee. An oath that all of us vets have to take. But I guess that's beneath you, eh? Anyhow, I'm sorry. I got a thing. So, take her easy there, Mr. Harjeet. And, go enjoy your pension and the prosperity off the Canadian taxpayers' back. All right? Cheers. Bye-bye. Well, that was interesting. Mr. Architect himself calls me up and gives me a hard time. That's okay. I don't mind talking to him. I like dialogue. Something that these liberals forget. That, prolongs debate and all that. But I guess, we're all racist according to them. Which brings me to my next point. The whole it's okay to be white thing. That our beloved defense minister, I can't speak English right now. That our beloved defense minister had his 2 cents to put in. Right? Yeah, okay. Now for Mr. Harjeet Sajjan's Twitter feed from November 2nd of this month. He states, these posters may appear innocent, but the racist undertones they represent have no place in Canada. Proud of the strong reactions against this behavior, we will continue to stand up against hatred and intolerance. Well done, sir. But I got news for you, Buckeye. There's no racial undertones to saying it's okay to be white, or it's okay to be black, or it's okay to be pink, purple, brown, whatever color of the day. Now, I read said article from a man by the name of Martin Luther, and I'll give him a plug here. And I'll put the link to everything I've been saying here at the bottom of my page here. He more or less wrote that as a protest against the indoctrination that he is seeing at his university, as well as a lot of other universities and college campuses around North America. For some reason, some of these professors like to keep teaching that white people are evil. Oh, we do all these wonderful, rotten things. We've done all these terrible things. Now, historically speaking, yeah, European settlers weren't the best people. Not every European settler, however, did atrocious things. Not every black person does atrocious things. Not every white person does atrocious things. Not every Asian, not every Sikh, or every Pakistani, or every Afghani, or everybody else that has come to Canada to live a good life. Mr. Martin Luther put that up as a protest to make a point, saying it's okay to be who you are. Really. And for you, sir, with your educational background and your military history, who supposedly ramrodded all these operations and seen all these wonderful and done these wonderful things, you would think you would stand up to some kind of status quo. But then again, as a defense minister, what the hell are you doing butting your affairs into the educational system in this country? If anything, you should inspire some of these people to do things better, regardless of their color, regardless of their gender. That's my stance as a man. I personally don't care what anyone's color is or their gender. I don't. I judge people by their character and how they treat other people. I was raised with that moral, and I will die with that moral. And I will encourage that moral all the time. My best friend is First Nations. He sees a lot of anti-white sentiment, believe it or not. And it's pretty scary, right? I'm not going to sit here and say, I'm a proud white man. I am a proud Canadian. I serve my country. I've done it proudly. I've done the best of my ability. And I'm sick and tired of this race-baiting BS that's been going on in this country now. So, enough of that, sir. I'll leave a link to the article and the tweet below my page here. But lay off it. I am so sick and tired of this race-baiting bullshit when it comes to, white people did this in the 1800s, and white people did that here. I got news for you. The Romans did some rotten things too. Right? Attila the Hun did some rotten things. Genghis Khan did some rotten things. Alexander the Great did some rotten things. But you want to know something? That's called history, and we learn from it. That's a wonderful thing, isn't it? So get off this race-baiting truck, quit pointing fingers, and start doing your effing jobs. Okay? I want to know what the ministers of all these educational institutions have to say. Right? Instead of jumping on the bandwagon saying it's bad. It's okay to be white. It's okay to be black. It's okay to be brown. It's okay to be born who you are. And it doesn't matter if you're straight, gay, bisexual, or pansexual, whatever the hell that is. Anyhow, stop it. Enough is enough. You know? What gets me is that all these figureheads are well into their 40s and early 50s, and they're jumping on this bandwagon too. Come on. I was raised in a household where you tolerate people for who they are, not what you want them to be. Right? My father was a firefighter. He saw a lot of crap, and he saved everybody he could. He was not a racist. He was not a bigot. He was my hero. Right? Because the work he did, he'd save black families. He'd save East Indian families. He'd save white families. He'd save Greek families, Italian families. It didn't matter to him who you were. You were in trouble, guess what? My dad was there to help you. And he gave me the same incentive too, to treat people the way you want to be treated. And it doesn't matter what color you are. So, to tell you, Mr. Defense Minister, start looking after the defense of this country, quit tweeting your horn, and butt out. Set an example. Maybe you can stand in your tweets and say, oh, well, it doesn't really matter what color you are. Let's judge people by their character. To me, that's leadership. Leadership is where you're supposed to better things and better people, not better your own career and your own bloody virtues. And to these administrators that want to give students a hard time for standing up, keep going. Because don't be surprised, let's say, if 1 year or 2 years or 3 years down the road that you're not going to meet your quotas. And if it was up to me and I had the ability to stop funding your institutions, I would, for the simple reason that you, sirs and ma'ams, are showing the cultural bias. You, sirs and ma'ams, are creating division with this whole blaming white people for things. Enough. We're not perfect. We don't have a perfect society. But I tell you this, we're a hell of a lot more tolerant of things now than, let's say, 200 years ago. Okay? Start allowing free thought. Start taking responsibility for yourself and your actions. I'll stand behind Martin Luther and his article. Nothing wrong with it. He wasn't promoting any kind of hate. He was just making a point. It's okay to be who you are, and it doesn't matter what color you are. Right? So, enough said of that. Anyhow. Well, on that note, yes. So, I digress. No more race baiting. Let's do our best to get along. That way, you won't have guys like me bitching all the time. But hey, I'm crusty, and that's my job. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to an end of another episode of Krusty Canuck. I hope you enjoyed. Hope I was entertaining and informative and as factual and as honest as possible. And I'll take this opportunity to give a special shout out to everybody who's followed me on my FB page. Thank you very much. I appreciate all the likes and the comments. Please bring them on. I'd love to see more. And if you get a second, please check out my t-shirt and mug line at teespring.com. Link is at the bottom of the page. And if you can contribute, that would be fantastic. Once again, thanks for everybody who has clicked like and subscribed to my page. Thumbs up to all you lads and gals out there. More is on its way. So, take care. Look after your loved ones. Remember, humanity and merit wins the day. Bye for now.